1967 saw the end of steam operation on the southern region. Over the last couple of years leading up to July 1967, I made many visits to experience the final rites of steam operation in the south of England. 50 years on, I decided to revisit many of these places. The object was to replicate original photographs with present-day ones. This shows how, in many instances, things have changed over half a century, and how, surprisingly, some things are just the same. And a couple of pictures here at London Waterloo. In 1965, West Country class locomotive number 34048 with a train to Weymouth. This was in July 1965. Whilst quite clean, you could actually see it was green, the nameplates and the front number had been removed, and one of the electric lights on the right-hand smoke deflector had also been removed. Moving forward to September 2014, and we have a similar engine awaiting departure from Waterloo. This is 34046 Braunton with a UK Rail Tours excursion to Salisbury in September that year. This video is a sample for this 50-year Now and Then project. I made a number of trips to Eastleigh. The first was on the 14th of April 1966. I went with my father and a school friend. We visited Eastleigh Works, but unfortunately not the shed. Apparently Thursday was a payday. I went back to Eastleigh 50 years later to try to retake some of the pictures to show how things have changed over 50 years. In 1966, Eastleigh Station was being rebuilt with a rather drab concrete building on the down platform. You can see this on the right of the 2016 picture. The up platform still had its bay in 1966. This is now part of the car park, although part of the canopy survives at the station entrance. The big difference over half a century was the weather. Thursday, the 14th of April 1966, arrived with heavy snow, which persisted throughout the morning before clearing after lunch. By the evening, it was already starting to melt. In 1966, we travelled to Eastleigh on the 9:30 a.m. from Waterloo to Bournemouth. Not the fastest of services. It took almost 2 hours, arriving at Eastleigh at 11:21. The motive power was BR Standard Class 5, number 73118, which by this time had lost its nameplates. The 14th of April 2016 was a warm sunny day with some passengers at Eastleigh brave enough to wear shorts and a t-shirt. 50 years on, the equivalent train was the 0939 to Poole, which arrived at Eastleigh at 11 o'clock, with the ubiquitous Class 444 providing the service. These two pictures were taken 50 years apart, less about 20 minutes or so. There were two principal through services in 1966. The Pines Express from Poole to Manchester succumbed to Class 47 haulage at the start of the year and didn't stop at Eastleigh. I didn't see that train in 1966 as it went through before we'd arrived. A through service from Bournemouth to Manchester still runs in 2016, but alas, the Pines Express name has gone. Somehow the 4-coach cross-country unit doesn't have the same appeal as a 12-coach restaurant train, but the journey is probably quicker and smoother. The other through train in 1966 was the 10:30 from Poole to Newcastle, and this service stopped at Eastleigh. It was steam hauled as far as Banbury, and Stainier's Black Fives were the staple motive power. This service still runs today in 2016, although starting at Bournemouth, and it no longer stops at Eastleigh. Steam operation for this service ceased in September 1966, and the picture here is of Black 5 number 44942, a regular on this working. This engine survived to the end of steam in 1968, being reallocated to Lostock Hall Shed. These two pictures were taken 50 years and 3 minutes apart. A familiar sight at Eastleigh were the London-bound trains that stopped at the end of the up platform, as seen here with the West Country class number 34005 Barnstaple. And the 2016 picture. Much has changed, including the signals being replaced, a new road bridge over the line and office blocks opposite the station. I somehow don't think the modern-day units make such an attractive photograph as the one with steam, although occasionally you can replicate the steam age era, as I did with this shot of 34046, masquerading as 34052 Lord Dowding. In 1966, Eastleigh was a hive of activity with lots of movement from the nearby sheds and shunting in the yard on the downside of the station. In 1966, it was Ivett 262 tank locomotive number 41294. 50 years on, there was still shunting activity, and the diesel locomotive 66206 is seen propelling its train into the yard. These two pictures were taken 50 years, less 35 minutes apart. Although I didn't see an Ivett tank at Eastleigh, I did get to see one at Ropley on the Midlands Railway later on in the afternoon. This is 41312. Some shots now from the south end of the station, and British Railway's standard 264 tank, number 80016, is backing onto its train for the 2 minutes past 2 p.m. service to Bournemouth. In 2016, the rear coach of a Class 444 unit takes up the same position. The USA tanks were a familiar sight at Southampton Docks and around Eastleigh Works. Here, number 30067 ventures into the station. The works can be seen in the background on the left. Today there are not the light engine movements, but I captured diesel number 66053 taking a freight into the yard. Steam can sometimes be seen in this location, and here's a picture of Clan Line with an up-boat train in 1995. And this picture brings to mind a quote from the author and photographer Dick Blenkinsop. In the preface to his book, Big Four Cameraman, he wrote that if he could have the luxury of photographing just one train again in the 1950s, but with a modern camera, he would go for the Bournemouth Bell. To quote him, it will be an up train towards the middle of May with a stormy sky illuminated by a marvellous patch of blue sky that allows the sun to shine through the brilliant clear air. The location somewhere between Eastleigh and Basingstoke. All you would need is an immaculate Merchant Navy loco and a set of Pullmans. He wrote this in 1985. Little did he know then that Clan Line would regularly haul such a set of Pullmans from Southampton Docks to London. And I wonder whether he ever got his picture. Away from the station, Campbell Road provided a great vantage point for both the running lines and traffic in and out of the shed. The 1966 view shows BR Standard Class 4, number 75077. In 2016, a down freight, hauled by 66116, rumbles towards Southampton. The differences in the townscape can be seen. The terraced houses along the Southampton Road on the left are still there, but the town centre has changed beyond recognition, with multi-storey car parks providing the backdrop. I made another visit to Eastleigh on the 30th of December 1966. It was a very miserable and overcast day, and 50 years on, well, the weather was even worse. The 1966 shot shows a USA tank shunting in the works. In 2016 you could barely see the locomotive works from Campbell Road, but in 1966 stored outside the works was the Battle of Britain locomotive 34051 Winston Churchill. It had recently been withdrawn from service. On that visit in December 1966 we did get a chance to visit the shed. A shot here of Standard 4 number 76009 on Eastleigh's turntable. In 2016 I didn't get a chance to see any steam at Eastleigh, but on the way home as the weather was clearing up I managed to see a Standard 4 at Medstead on the Mid-Hants Railway. This has been a sample of my 50-year Now and Then project and is the basis of a talk which I have given to railway societies over Zoom. Other items in this project include a look at Bournemouth and Nine Elms Sheds 50 years apart, retracing rail tours such as the Dorset Bell Tour of the 27th of February 1966, and also a look at how rail tours have changed over 50 years.